Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk about life. Our guests will share their life story. We want you to success in life and business. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk about life. We're going to speak on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are going to witness. Business with a servant's heart. With hosts Steve Ramon and Ray. Inspiration, education talks. Listen to the podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramon. I am so thrilled to have you join us today. We dedicate this podcast exploring the idea of doing business and living life with a purpose, and that purpose is a servant's heart. Imagine the difference you can make in people's lives. I get to do it every day. I get to bless you guys with an incredible guest today. It's powerful. Just learn how to do that. You're going to learn from my guests as well as they motivate you, inspire you, and educate you how obstacles, and we were just talking about before the show, hey, we make mistakes. Get past that mistake and go out and serve people. Here's your call to action today as an audience. Think about how you're going to serve yourself and others today and what impact and difference you'll make today. As I said, I love trying to do this every day. You will as well, and I guarantee you'll be like Christmas morning every day. With that being said, I want to thank my sponsor, Pantheon Alliance. Join a community of high-income entrepreneurs and business leaders to create this world-changing thought leader platform to help grow your business. For more information, just reach out to me, and I'll get you all the information on the Pantheon Alliance. With that being said, we're going to talk today about growing in business. What are you getting business for? You're a startup. You're thinking about what's your goal? Well, to make money, pay your bills, and put a little money in the bank, and eventually put a lot of money in the bank. Can't do that unless you grow. And my guest today is experienced in this. You're going to love this guy. He's got a great attitude. He's just a good guy to hang out with. Rick, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. It is such a privilege to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, man, I'm so fired up because, like I said, growing is so important. And there's many ways to do it. But just starting with that premise, what inspired you to help businesses grow?
You know, I just saw a lot of people that were starting companies, and it's like, you know, they've got a great product or they've got a great service and they're out there doing their thing and they're hustling every day. And it's like their business is them. And it's like if something happens to them, the thing, you know, the thing that we talk about or used to talk about a lot, it's like, what if you get sick? You know, what if you get sick for a week or two? You know, if you don't have a business that can run itself, then your business is going to suffer and your income is going to suffer. And I just, you know, that's something that it really tugs at my heart. I've always been, you know, a person that wants to see people do okay, do well for themselves.
Yeah. I love that you said system when you're sick, because things happen or a family member dies and you got to run out of state. You know, things happen in life.
Yep.
Talk about that, how important the systems, especially maybe automating those or people-driven systems, how they are important for that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things, you know, I've always been taught, you know, if you're going to do something, you know, more than one time, you want to have a system, you want to know, you know, those processes. And it's like, if someone has to come in and take over for your role, if you don't have processes in place, then, you know, it's just not going to get done. You know, it's like, and then when you go to hire other people, you know, just in general, it's so much easier when you have a process in place. You say, okay, here's our process. I'm going to teach you how to do this. And then you have this process that you can go back to and refer to every time you need to do this job or, you know, whenever you need to. The other thing about process that I like to include is, you know, what is that quality? What are we going for? You know, what does the end result of whatever it is that we're doing, what does it need to look like? What is it supposed to look like? So it's one thing. It's like, you know, I give my kid, you know, tell my kid to go out and cut the grass, like, you know, go back and forth, make lines, you know, and you know, it's one thing for him to go out and push the lawnmower around for 15 minutes, something else entirely to make sure that it looks good when it's done, right? Process.
Yep. Well, is process not a game changer, but a very vital part of a company to grow?
If you're going to grow, it is essential. One of the fears, I guess you could say, is you've got a person that runs a company, and they are the business is kind of built around them. Mechanic, whatever that's going to be, and once the business goes away, if you don't have systems and processes and tools in place, the business has no value other than the assets. That's there. I mean, processes are going to be vital. That's what creates some of the value of the organization beyond the owner.
So processes, you said something, you're brilliant what you do. I'm audience, I'm telling you, I've met with Rick, I was on his podcast, we've talked before. He truly is brilliant. You said a brilliant thing. I want to dive into it. More than one time, we need to process, automate it, or whatever it may be. Dive a little deeper in that, because I think that's a simple statement, but hard to do to help build a process.
It's always interesting. I like to start. There's different ways to start processes, and it really is dependent on how your brain works. Now, one of the cool things that we have now with artificial intelligence is you can, literally talk into your machine and say, hey, you know what? These are the steps that it takes in order to get things done. The cooler thing, though, that we have now is that we can go back to the same artificial intelligence, say, hey, what parts of this process can I automate? How can I introduce technology into a certain step or a certain part or the whole process in some cases to make sure that it's being done on time, the same way every time, and I'm getting the same exact output. I mean, this is critical. I mean, in order to stay competitive, in the marketplace today, I mean, you've got to be able to take advantage of these. Where I remember taking months, to map out a company's processes, every single process, across all of their different functions. I could do the work in half the time now just because of this capability. It's absolutely amazing. It's amazing that, not only can we have those processes, but those processes can really be refined. They can be simplified, in ways that we don't even think about. So absolutely, anything that you can do to automate, to simplify, to streamline your work is really going to give you that competitive advantage, which is really foundational. This is how you grow. You don't grow by staying the same. You grow by finding different ways to create competitive advantage and then, push forward in the marketplace.
And I love that, because the big companies, Google, Oracle, Amazon, massive company, how much have they changed in 10 years? Audience, think about that. And it's the process. Amazon's process much different today. They just added NFL. That's a new process, a money maker, probably a revenue generator or marketing tool that they're using. Well, who would have thought 10 years ago they'd be showing the NFL? Just such a great thing. Because you said critical and you spent months on people's processes. That's how important it is. You wouldn't have spent months if it wasn't important. But what are the common challenges you see when people build these processes?
When you got a team, and this happens over and over again. You have a team, you have people that do things a little bit differently. It's just like, this salesperson uses this process, this salesperson skips that step, and they go to the next step, and this and that, and this and that. And what we have to be able to do is find the best process, find the best steps, but also get everyone on board with that. Because what we don't want to happen is we don't want to develop a process and like half the team is doing it one way, the other half the team is doing it the other way. Why? Because a new person comes into the company and they're like, well, I do it this way and this person does it that way, and blah, and it doesn't work. It hurts the company as it strives to grow. And then what happens, the other thing that happens, especially, I'll use a sales organization in particular, you've got this situation where people are using different sales processes. Sometimes you want to introduce like a BDR into your sales team. Okay, what is the BDR going to do if we don't have a standard process? What is the expectation for the BDR if you don't have a process, if everybody's doing everything differently? Is he going to give this person, certain information, this other person going to format it completely different? It's just makes things more complicated. It's not necessary.
No, and if it's easier, people will grow faster, obviously. I mean, if you could work out easier and find a way to work out, you're going to be healthier faster. Same type of thing I see. Business plans are so important, or instructions or manual, whatever you want to call them.
Mhm.
Process is a big part of this as well.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely.
How do
Absolutely.
we integrate it?
I look at it from the perspective of the overall organization. So we look at the organization does a thing, the processes tell how we're going to do that thing. Okay, as the organization seeks to change, if we're looking at, hey, we're going to do strategic planning, foundational to that is typically going to be the process. How do our processes need to change, or what processes do we need to introduce? Okay, sometimes we're going into unknown territory. Okay, and if we don't develop a process and we just go out into that territory, we don't know how to get back. We don't know what adjustments to make. We don't know where we're being inefficient. We don't know where we can potentially lower our costs as we get better at doing what we do. And so it's really foundational to your business planning.
Yeah. And it's interesting. You just said pricing and money. You could save a lot of money with the right process, which people lose sight of. Now, I know you now. Your superpower is looking at a company and looking at their process and other things as too, and be able to change the course of that company. Do you have a story you could tell us of how you did that and what the end result was?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So let me think. Let me think of a good one. So there was a company I worked with. It's a great company. They were a very small company though, and their aspiration was to grow. And what they had in place at the time is they had a number of individual producers, people that could go out and do their job. They knew how to do their job. They didn't necessarily know how to train someone else on how to do that job. And so it's really, in order for this company to grow, it started out with, creating that goal. Where do we want to be in 2, 3, 4, 5 years? If we don't know where we're going, then we don't know where to really put our energy. And so we develop that, and then we bring it back to like that 1 year. What do we want to get accomplished within that 1 year framework, or that 1 year time frame? And within that 1 year time frame, we wanted to be able to bring 5 more people, 10 more people. I don't remember what it was, but 5 or 10 more people into the company. But the challenge that they had for X number of years prior to that is they would bring people into the company. People stay in the company for 6 months or whatever, and they would leave. Either they would underperform, or they get frustrated, or whatever that was. And so what we needed to do is needed to make that onboarding process easier and better. We needed to make the recruiting process even better, so we were getting the right candidates, and then we were bringing them into the company where they weren't just thrown to the wolves. Big issue here. You bring people in, you throw them to the wolves. You're just like, oh my gosh, what's good?
Not good. Not good. No.
Exactly. So by working on that, mapping those processes out, we were able to bring people into the company and say, okay, this is what you're going to do. These are the steps that you're going to take in order to do your job. You have these people working around you that are going to support you in doing your work so that you can be successful. As a result, over 3 years, we actually took this company from a $6 million company up to I think it was $21 million company. Got on the Inc. 5000, and the company was just rocking and rolling.
Changing processes did that.
Changing process.
Much of it, but the majority of it was implementing, finding the right people. So you literally
software in place.
Yeah. So you're a solution maker. I'll just call it that. So you can look at a solution. A process can handle a lot of the problems a company has. Across the board, right?
Yeah. I mean, you can see where the problems are in a process. You've got steps, that someone is taking, and you see a bottleneck. You see this one place where everything is slowing down over and over and over again. You can see by having a process in place, you can say, oh, well, this is the problem. This is slowing our productivity down. Let's bring in somebody else, or let's change the process, or let's automate the process. We have options now because we have documentation of what's happening. Otherwise, we're just going from our gut. We're just, hey, you know what? I kind of think, I hope, but we're not efficient with change.
I kind of think at home. It makes me laugh because I hear that from entrepreneurs, especially. I don't work with a lot of businesses, but that's the kind of the throw the dartboard and hope it hits the target and hoping doesn't build the business.
Yeah.
You know what I'm hearing from you, Rick, is you also change culture, because I think that's huge in a company. You have a good product or service, but your culture is not good, it won't succeed. How does process help with the culture of a company?
Well, people get frustrated, when they don't know
Mm,
what's happening. They don't know what's going on. But I mean, it's more of a symbiotic relationship, because if people are all on the same page, it's like, hey, we want to grow. This is how we grow. Then it makes it much easier. We come into companies and it's like you have the one person, you have the two people that say, this is what I do. This is how I've always done it. This is what I'm going to do. This is an obstacle to growth, and so we have to figure out how to work with that person, with those
yeah.
people, and this impacts the overall culture. So it's going to work. It's going to be a symbiotic relationship, and we have to make sure that everybody's on board going the same direction. If they're not all going the same direction, it's regardless of, the challenge that we run into sometimes is, again, you've got people that have been there for a while, the people that started the company, and they do things the way they want to do. Sometimes those aren't going to be the people that need to stay on the bus.
Yeah.
Sometimes they need to, they need to find greener pastures, and what, I think one of the things, you really impacted me on our podcast, talking about servant, and it's, the thinking that we can help someone get into a place where they're going to be successful is really a great move. It helps the culture, because the culture's like, wow, they didn't just fire this person, they helped this person find a job, find a company that's really better aligned with who they are and what they want to do. It speaks volumes.
Yeah. This is powerful, Rick, because I'm thinking as you're talking, such great, there's two people sitting there going, what are we supposed to do today? I don't know what we're supposed to do. They did this, I did this, and I did it this way. And they told me, I mean, I can hear these conversations in cubicles and offices,
Yeah.
and that's not good. And also, too, it sounds like processes have to change. Well, the old guard might have to leave, or part of the old guard. And I say a servant's heart, doing business with a servant's heart, and that's what you're so big about, being a servant, is to let somebody go. But like you said, let me find you another place, maybe within the company or somewhere else. Hey, it's not a fit, and that's okay. Joe, we've got Jimmy here that can do it, but let's get you going somewhere else and moving your career to somewhere else. I love that, but it all falls back to processes and setting up, which I'm going to ask you. You're a smart guy, so I know I can ask this question. Is when you see a company failing, I'll say, I want to say all of it, but a big part of it is the process.
I could say that. I mean, I would say that if we have the right processes in place, we can identify why we're failing. And it could be something as simple as failure to adapt, which means that we're not paying attention to what's happening in the marketplace. We're not listening to our customers. We don't have a mechanism in place for getting that feedback from our customers so that we can make the appropriate change and serve their new needs. We're
Yeah,
not paying attention to competitors or technology or whatever that's allowing our competitors to automate their processes and do things more efficiently at a lower cost, et cetera, et cetera. And so we're missing things in the marketplace because we don't have those processes in place. In addition to just the inefficiencies that can happen in a company just because they don't have processes.
yeah, you can have the right. You can have a process, but not be the right way, and have to tweak it like you do. That's why you need to hire this guy if you're struggling, because he can come in and look at these processes. I know he's a servant heart, so he would meet with you if you're listening and going, I'm struggling. I would meet with him and just see maybe he can find some of these bottlenecks, which is a great word in regards to that. With the other side of this, though, if you're failing, you can fix it.
Yeah,
With changing processes.
yeah. I mean, you get to take a fresh look at how you're doing stuff.
Fresh. Yeah.
I mean, I find that to be because I'm solution oriented. It's just like, okay, what steps do we need to take? And I find a great deal of refreshment. Okay, there's hope. We can turn this thing around. We can get this boat sailing again. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's the very little that you're going to pay somebody like Rick could be. Well, let's take your story. It went from 6 to 21 million. Let's 25 million. Let's use that. So they increased 19 million a year. They didn't pay you 19 million.
No, not even close.
They paid you a portion of it. I'm not saying, I'm not saying that Rick is not unhappy, but you pay a little bit to Rick or somebody like Rick, whoever, to grow that much, I'm on board. I'm raising my hand. I'm in it 100%. That's a huge growth. Even if you went from 6 million to 8 million and I paid you 50,000, 1.5 million increase, I think everybody listening or most people listening will go raise my hand for it. And that's what I love what you do, because growth is that.
Yeah.
Some companies can't grow and they've got to just shut the doors. And what you do, if audience, just think of COVID and how many people changed their process. I call pivot. Just use a restaurant that went outside and opened tents. And when they couldn't do anything, especially here in California, they just did to-goes. Mm-hmm. We took advantage of it. It's like sign up and they were masked up. They were all proper, but we just bought to-goes because we still wanted that food from that great restaurant we enjoy. This is what Rick does, and I'm so excited that he does. And, you know, he's going to get more referrals from me because of that. We're running out of a little time here, but I love being on your podcast. And thank you again. It was so wonderful. Talk about that and what you're trying, the mission of the podcast is.
Well, I really want to help to educate, equip, and inspire people to really go out and build extraordinary companies. You know, I've never been the type of person to say, hey, you know, let's just go for the standard. Let's go for, you know, let's just mark time. You know, it's just like, let's run, let's build, let's jump off the bridge and build a parachute on the way down, with a process, of course.
Yeah. Well, what got me when I first met you and then jumped on your podcast is you used the word extraordinary a number of times on the podcast when we first met. Now, he could have said, I want them to be better, be good, grow a little bit, but extraordinary, that's a servant's heart, because you want people to do better. If you're working here, you want to go to the next level. That's what extraordinary is. And I love that about you. And I support, listen to us. What's the name of the podcast?
The Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast.
RPOW, if you want to do acronyms, but reach out. We'll have the link in the show notes because I want you guys to check it out. I've checked it out. He's got some great interviews. You know, I'm a good host. This guy's a great host. You're going to love listening to him. Let's end with an incredible improv. I love doing this. So I've got a reservation in a restaurant local near you. You're sitting in one of the chairs. There'd be 4 chairs. So the other 3 empty chairs, who would you invite, dead or alive, and why would you invite them? And more importantly for me is, what food are we eating?
Let's start with the food. You know, I was in the restaurant industry for a long time, and I absolutely love, like I did this African Caribbean fusion. You know, so like a lot of like just like really, really fresh food, simple ingredients, you know, but complex flavors. It was just absolutely wonderful. You know, I just absolutely love that. Sitting at the table, I think one of the people that, and you know, don't judge me.
No judging here.
I really enjoyed watching the creative process was Michael Jackson. I remember seeing him while he was on trial, and he got really, really nervous, and he's just talking about his creative process. And I sat there and I watched him. I was just like, wow, this guy is, you know, he's absolutely amazing. I love creatives. I love working with creatives. I love seeing the creative process. Thomas Edison, and the reason for that is I love the idea that he took a product and said, how do we commercialize this? How do we operationalize this? How do we turn this into a business? And that is something that I really, really enjoy doing, you know, and the work and the effort that he put into it was just phenomenal. He took a different perspective. There was a story where one of his warehouses or factories or something was burning down, right? And he went and got his kids, he went and got his family, said, come see this, because you're never going to see anything like this in your entire life. I'm just like, I like that guy.
Wow.
You know, right? Yeah. Right? It's like, think a little bit differently. I love thinkers. I love people that are just willing to do things a little bit differently. Let me think, who's the third person? I can't remember his name. I can picture his work. But he was an engineer artist person from, I don't know, 1800 or something like that. He was able to conceptualize inventions and just draw them, just sketch them out all kinds of like really, really cool things. I think he did a design for a helicopter, back like years and years and years ago. And I was just so impressed with his, I'm just so impressed with that type of thinking. I do a lot of conceptualizing. I sketch things out, and I just love people that can do that and just have conversations. Where did you get the idea? What's your inspiration? Blah, blah, blah. What kind of things do what kinds of things do you think about when you're not?
Yeah.
Well, so,
that proves that you're so good at what you do because you conceptualize processes. So it definitely makes sense to me. I can see that. And I should never ask that question during lunchtime because now I'm hungry. And it sounds really, really good. Thank you. This has been an incredible show. I appreciate you coming on and taking time to spend with the audience.
I would do it 100 times, Steve. I really, really enjoy you. I enjoy the show. I love listening to it. I loved interviewing you.
Well, part 2 we will definitely do because this is a very big subject, which 20, 25 minutes doesn't fit the mode. But I know people listening going, I want to reach out to Rick, connect with them. How can they do that?
Best way is through my website. It's at epiphany.com, and you can actually go to coffeeandaconsult.com. Fill out a form there, and I will get back in touch with you as quickly as possible.
There you go. And I'll have it in the show notes. So you'll have it there if you can't write that down. Epiphany is kind of a long where you'll see it scrolling across the screen. You can stop the video, which is why I do that, and write it down. Again, thank you, Rick. I knew you'd be a great guest, and you've far exceeded my expectations. So I appreciate you. And audience, your end of the show call to action. I truly believe podcasts are a gift. And here's how I see it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel when a new show comes up or you see Rick's show. But you're talking to somebody next week going, my company's not really doing well. I need help. Well, send them this link to Rick. And Rick, you're going to see his passion, his education, his inspiration of helping companies be extraordinary. Well, they reach out to Rick, and Rick helps them grow. You've given them the gift of almost life. I know that's kind of life, Steve, but it really has, because if the company's struggling, they're more likely going to probably close than they are going to grow or scale. So use these podcasts as a gift to give somebody. That's why I want you to subscribe. I love subscribers because to me, more people are giving out gifts. So go ahead and do that, and then comment on the YouTube channel. This will be out today or tomorrow. I get them out quick. If it's for Rick, I'll make sure he gets the information. And if you need his contact information, I'll do that. If it's a critique for the podcast, just let me know. Me and Rick want this podcast for you, the audience. If we can inspire, educate, and motivate, like I said, I'll make changes to it, and I'd love to do that because if it helps you guys, it helps everybody else. Thank you, everybody. Me and Rick, thank you so much for watching or listening to this podcast. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.